the things that we need to know are, we need to have a basic understanding of place value. We need to be able to order the decimals, as in find out which one's bigger and which one's smaller. We need to be able to add and subtract them. We need to be able to multiply. We need to be able to round. We need to be able to divide them, terminate them, and figure out what happens when we're dividing or multiplying by multiples of 10. Each of these digits represents a different place value. So I'm sure you're very familiar with the units or the ones, depending on what word you use, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. But when it comes to decimals, we work in the opposite direction. So the first decimal place is called a tenth. Then we've got 100. Then we've got a thousandth. Then we've got 10,000, and then 100,000, and then millionth, and so on and so forth. So the further away from the decimal place that we get, the smaller the number gets. So now, let's figure out which one is bigger and which one's smaller of these sets of decimals that are here. So, out of 0.31 and 0.84, which one's bigger? Mark.
The equal one.
Awesome. So I'm going to underline the one that's bigger. Great. What about 0.22 versus 0.07? Dia? Fantastic. This one's bigger. Am I losing anyone? No? Alright, what about these last two down here? I've got 0.009 and I've got 1.021. Which one is bigger? Awesome. Ladies in the back, which one is bigger out of these two? This one or this one? Awesome. This one's bigger. Cool. Alright, so being able to figure out which one's bigger is very important. The further away from the decimal place that you get, the smaller the number gets. So this one down here is tiny because it's 3 spaces. Okay, coolsies. Now we're going to come to adding and subtracting. So when it comes to adding and subtracting the decimals, you basically ignore the decimal, treat it like a standard addition or subtraction, and then add the decimal in later. So here, as always when we're doing addition without a calculator, you start on the right and add these two up. If you get a number bigger than 10, you carry it over. So 1 plus 4 is?
5.
3 plus 8 is?
11.
So I'm going to put the 1 and carry my next one. Great. And now I've got a decimal place, so I'm going to carry that down in the exact same spot. So now I've got 0 plus 0 plus 1 gives me 1. Great. Any question about that? Alright, now we want to subtract. We're going to start on the right, or we can just leave it. But can I take 9 away from 3? No. No, so what do I have to do?
It's gonna hit my head.
Ready? This is going to become a 3. I'm going to borrow a 1, and that's going to go there. 13 minus 9. Alright, 3 minus 2 is 1. Carry my decimal down. 2 minus 1 is 1.
Do we have to copy this down?
No, it's entirely up to you what study notes you make. Next up, we've got a couple more digits. How do I subtract this from this? Actually, you know what? Let me make this slightly harder. Alright, there we go. They have a different number of decimal places. What should I do? Anyone other than Dia have an idea? Thank you for your enthusiasm though. I think everyone else is asleep. Arena.
3 minus 0.
3 minus 0. Awesome, because if there's no number there, I'm just going to put a 0 as a placeholder. So 3 minus 0 is?
0.
3. Okay. Alright, Jalil, your hand went up there. So 6 minus 5 is?
5. I mean, yeah.
6 minus 5 is 1?
Oh, I thought you meant. Never mind. Yes.
Minus 1.
Alright, next up we've got 0 minus 1. Dia. Awesome, I have to borrow a 1 from here. So that becomes a 1, and I'm lending a 1 over here. So awesome. 10 minus 1 is 9. 1 minus 7, can't do that, so it becomes 11 minus 7, which is...
Then that would be 4.
Okay, now when it comes to multiplication, it's easiest to move your decimal places out of the way and then move them back later. So I'm going to move this decimal place out. I've moved it 1 space.
I was Jalou.
Out. Yeah? Alright, so I've moved my 2 decimal places out. And now I'm just going to do standard multiplication. So 2 times 1 is 2.
1. I meant 2.
2 times 3 is 6. Okay? Now I need to put a placeholder down here because I'm now multiplying with tens. So 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 3 is 18. Now what do I do with those 2 numbers? Michael, what are your thoughts? What should I do with these 2 numbers?
9 times 3 is
Oh, no, it's 27. My bad. Thank you. What are your thoughts? What should I do with these 2 numbers?
Miss, you add them together.
Cool. Now I'm going to add them. So 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 9 is 8.
$2.
7 plus 1 is 8. Carry the 2. Alright, any questions about that so far? But what am I forgetting? I have one person painted Shaka. Awesome. What do I do with them? I moved them out before, so what am I doing with them now?
You moved them. You have to you earn them their place.
Yep, I have to move them back. So, how many moves happened originally?
You made it 1 back.
Yep, so I moved once there. And then, what about here?
1.
Awesome, so it's moving twice. So it moves here. So, however many movements... because there's 2 movements also in the question. So I moved it once here and once here, so 1 plus 1 is 2. So it has to be moved back 2 times. Yes?
If you moved it twice on the bottom one, do you have to do it 3 times?
Yeah. You just count how many moves there are, and that's how many you move back. Alright, coolsies, let's do this one. Alright, let's move our decimal place out.
I don't even know.
Move it over here. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1. Alright, what am I missing? Someone over this side. What am I missing? I can't, it's not finished yet. I've done my multiplication, but I need to do something else before I finish. Because 1.5 times 2 is not 30. So what do I need to do? What was the first thing I did here in pink?
You
Need to
put the decimal back.
Awesome. Put my decimal place back in the right spot, which is here.
So that
Comes 3.0. Sorry. Now, last one. I'm loving the enthusiasm, thank you. But I want to try and get more people involved as well. Thank you though. Okay. Sorry, am I confusing you?
I'm just talking about something.
So, I multiply this by each, but before that, I need to use my pink texter to do what?
Move the decimal back.
So it's moving 1, 2 spots.
School's the best.
Cool. 5 times 3 is
15.
5, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10. I put 1 down, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1. 5 times 4 is 20. Alright, but I don't stop there. What am I doing with my pink texter? Awesome. I'm moving it back 2 times. 1, 2.
You have to go all the way.
Alright, so next up, it tells me in my question that I need to round these decimals to 2. I have to round this to 2 decimal places. What that means is at the moment, this number has how many decimal places?
3.
3. but I only want it to have 2 at the end. So I want to drop 1 off. So I want to cut this here after 2 decimal places. And that's what I look. Does my 4 round up or down?
Down.
Down. Great. So does my 3 change? No. So this becomes 2.13. Next up, I want to round to 1 decimal place.
The 6 rounds off.
So I count 1 decimal place after, and I put a dotted line there. Now the number 6, does that round up or down? Up. So what happens to this 5?
5 goes to a 6.
Turns to a 6. Okay, this one, I want to round to 1 decimal place, so I count 1, put a dotted line. Now, does 9 round up or down? Up. So this changes to a 10. Uh-oh, I have a problem. So what happens then? Charlotte, your hand went up first.
You change that to a 0 and then you change the 9 to a 10.
Awesome. Great. So basically when you're rounding, what you're asking is
Doctor.
So basically what you're asking is, for example, this first one. Is the number closer to 2.13 or the one that's rounded up, so 2.14? And you have to decide based on whether the number rounds up or down what it's closer to. That's how rounding works. So dividing with decimals is very similar to adding and subtracting because you just carry the decimal place and put it exactly in the same spot as it was before. So how many 3's fit into 9? 3. Next up I've got a decimal place, so I carry that there and put it in the exact same spot. How many 3's go into 1? 0. You can't do that, so I have to put a 0. Carry my 1 down here. How many 3's fit in 15?
5.
Yeah, 2 now becomes a 15.
Shit, crewmate.
Awesome.
I thought you said how many 3's?
Yeah, sorry. It becomes 15 because I had to carry this one because it didn't get used. How many 2's fit in 7? 3. And how many's left over? 1. So now, how many 2's fit in 16?
Actually, I'll create again.
How many 2's fit in 2?
What's the code?
And how many 2's fit in 4?
Marina, what's the code?
Alright, next up. How many 5's fit in 2? 0. How many 5's fit in 2 is none, so I have to carry my 2. How many 5's fit in 20? 4. What do I do with my decimal?
Drag it up.
Go to the same spot. How many 5's fit in 4? 0. What do I do with my 4? Awesome. How many 5's fit in 41? 8. But it's remainder 1. So, I carry my 1, but there's no more numbers
Missy, put
there.
a 0.
Awesome. So because I ran out of numbers, I have a remainder. I've got a remainder 1.
I can't.
Tell them
But we're trying to continue. Yeah, you can't just leave
Tell
it.
them.
So I've got a remainder 1, but I'm out of numbers. So I can add another 0 to hold its place. I can add as many zeros.
It's an Asia.
Asia local.
I can add as many zeros as I
Kick
want.
out. Leave quickly.
I don't want to.
Come on. You
How
can
many
leave out
5's
after.
go to 10? There we go.
Are you that past?
Yeah. So you can add as many zeros as you need to until you run out of remainders. So
Miss, how about you never?
yeah, you could essentially add infinity zeros. So sometimes you might get an answer that goes.
But basically, if you keep on doing the zeros, for example, you keep on adding 2.
Let's do this one.
Let's just cut it off at that point.
How many 3's fit in 10?
Oh yeah.
And then left over.
Remainder 1.
Okay, carry my decimal place. How many 3's now fit in this 10?
What's that?
3. And I have one remainder. What do I do?
Hey, that's cheating. Why back himself?
How many 3's fit in 10? 3. How many remainder? What do I do? So if that goes go forever.
This is the best.
You could.
I recommend to
Well, you write the little dot on top and that means
Don't say
But anyway, what I wanted to show you is you keep adding zeros until you run out of remainders. Okay, now we want to terminate. So sometimes you'll come up with a number where it just repeats forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But I don't want to have to write a billion 3's. I want to come up with a short way that we'll write it. But I want everyone to know that 3's do continue. I'm just not writing them. Tomorrow, what are your thoughts?
3.33 and then you put dots on top of it.
Awesome. So I write 3 point. Now I don't have to write 3, 3. I can just put 1, 3, but I put a dot on top. That dot means that those 3's continue forever. Great. Alright, Dia, what do I do here since I have a pattern that is how many digits? Awesome. Now I have a pattern that is 3 digits, so it goes 621, 621, 621 forever. But I don't put 3 dots on top of all 3 numbers. What do I do there?
If you put one at the start of the pattern and one at the end of it.
Awesome, that's the start, that's the end. So before 1.621 with a dot on the top of the beginning and the end. Okay, last repeating one. How do I terminate it if it's got a pattern of 4? Thank you. Is anyone else paying attention? Yes. Smart. Right. 9. I put 9 over the 9.
8 and then you put one at the beginning and then.
Awesome. So it'll be 8.9308 with a dot on the start of the pattern and a dot at the end of the pattern. Great. Alright, now I want to show you what happens when you multiply or divide by 10. It makes questions super easy because all you have to do is move the decimal place.
Don't risk it. Don't risk it.
So if I'm multiplying something by 10, is my number... If I'm multiplying a number by 10, is my number getting bigger or getting smaller? Okay. If I'm multiplying by 10, is my number getting bigger or smaller?
Bigger.
Bigger. Cool. So if I multiply this by 10, all I'm doing is moving my decimal place one spot to make it slightly bigger. Therefore, my number becomes 541.3. If I'm multiplying any number, any decimal by 100, how many zeros are there in 100? 2. That's how many places I'm moving my decimal. 1, 2. So now my number becomes much bigger. So it becomes 13346.2. Okay? So multiplying by 10 moves your decimal place to the right. What about dividing by 10? What do you reckon that's going to do?
That way. You move the decimal point to the left.
Awesome. This one will move one spot to the left. So it'll be 0.9123.
I can't wait for.
Alright, what if I'm dividing a number by 100? How many places will it move? Awesome. Anyone else? How many places will it move to the left if I'm dividing by 100? Thank you. I'm waiting. How many zeros are there in the number 100? Great, so that's how many spots it's moving. 1, 2. Let me come there. So 24.396. Right, moral of the story. If you're multiplying by 10, your number's becoming bigger, so you move to the right. And you count how many zeros there are. So 10 has 1 0, so it moves 1 spot. The number 100 has 2 zeros, so it moves 2 spots. If I was multiplying by the number 1000, how many spots would it move? 3. Fantastic. It works in reverse when you're dividing. So if I'm dividing by 10, it moves in the opposite direction, 1 spot. If I'm dividing by 100, it moves, how many zeros are there? 2. It moves 2 spots in the opposite direction.
Wait,
Sure.
how would you remember what way? Like, if
Moving it to the right makes your number bigger.
Oh.
So that's what happens when you multiply. If you're dividing, your number gets smaller, so your decimal moves that way. Because otherwise, if we moved our decimal the other way, we'd get 91.23, which is way too big. Okay, that's the end of my points. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.